What is going on, Profitable Stylist? Good morning. Good morning. The ultimate hair topper guide for beginners. Bernard, good morning. Good morning, all you ladies back there that are willing to help us out for today's episode. What is going on?
I was like, what ladies are you talking about?
You got the
like
nice
Adams. How you like my wrist warmers?
It's you.
Yeah, I forgot to turn my lights on. Give me a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some scrunchies. You ever sell these or use them where it's kind of like a scrunchie that goes on a ponytail? So if somebody's got thin hair or somewhat thin hair and they put that around their ponytail, and I mean, you can wrap it just like a regular pony. That adds a lot of hair to a person's head.
It's nice to thicken it up. Turn on your lights real quick. And the thing about ponytails, what's nice about it, they have so many new accessories nowadays. So this way, you don't just have to get an oversized scrunchie. You could use something like that in place of an oversized scrunchie. Or if you like hair ties or hair bands, they have so many dress-up accessories for all these, the ponytails, so you could cover it up so you don't just see a band. So it's really, really fun. They also have some things with pins, like clips or pins. So
what's our official title for the day?
The ultimate hair topper guide for beginners. So if you're starting off and you don't know, hair extensions always go down here. They never go above here. This has always been no man's land for the longest time, but not anymore. We have the ability of putting hair up here. It's just not the traditional hair extensions.
I hate that word. Always and never. No, you can put them up there.
If you got enough hair to cover it up. What do you do if you don't have enough? What if you have enough hair to attach something, but not enough to cover up the attachments?
You do it anyway. So
tease. Just tease
no,
everything.
Don't hide it at all.
Just leave it up there and own it.
Yeah, you haven't seen some girls who have what would look like braids or twist or So that's extensions. Usually.
Well, they usually put beads or they put some kind of an accessories at the attachment area since they're showing it off. They try to dress it up.
Well, I had a lady come in one time and I said, we don't usually, and I don't say there's a hard line anywhere. It's somewhere around the head's a curve, right? So when you say top of the head, side of the head, well, here's a top, here's a side. There's something in between, and what do you call that? Some people call it the parietal, the round, the corner. There's no corner on a circle, but it's kind of what would be the corner if your head was square. So, it's almost like we got to give some definitions of what these weird words we use as hairdressers are. And so I love corner because there's no freaking corner. So the corner, that area there, that's the gray area, I would say, because you can put extensions anywhere there's hair, right? Now, will it look good? Maybe you want to be in the book or the website people of Walmart and you want it to look bad. But then some people just do it and they just look bad and they don't even think they look bad and they can't tell. So I wonder sometimes maybe beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
I see what you did there.
Somebody thinks that whatever that girl has is beautiful. So who am I to judge it, And Fair enough. Somebody's like, I love that one blonde strand she has. And so I don't know how to judge the 4 blonde strands that hang down. She's got blonde hair and it's long, all 4 of them. So it's such a difficult thing to say what's right, wrong, where the hair should be. So I like to deal with more generalities and say, for the most part, we don't put hair extensions on top. But we both knew an old man named Mr. Ron that had hair extensions across the whole top of his head. Do you remember that? Yeah.
So do I remember that?
So
back in the day, do you remember when people would get plugs, when people would get the hair, like men especially, they'd get the hair replacement plugs and it looked like a cornfield on top of their head?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that who you're talking about took that to the next. He one-upped all of this.
His blended fine.
It did not.
Blended really,
Did
really
not.
well. You couldn't even see they were there until he told us.
Yeah, if you accidentally turn the lights on in the room, sure, yes.
So, so our topic today's got a word. It's kind of bothers me, this word, and we even use it in our marketing and in our names of stuff. Topper. I felt like from the beginning the word topper. Oh, I felt like it was such a low class word. It just felt like it could have been so much nicer. Uh, but it's kind of the word that's there, and it's like hair extensions. We don't always extend hair, so why we're using the word extensions, but it's okay. And I'm just like, I get hung up on words sometimes. And topper, I just feel like we're saying like, oh, you're a little thin over there. Let's top you off. We're gonna top her. Topper on. We're gonna top her.
You know, the naming conventions of things in life is really goofy.
Little. There's no convention. So I think we should kind of define the word first of all, and where it came from, and what it is, and the sad way it ended up here. Because before topper, there were lots of words. A topper seems like the word that's stuck, and it pretty much means anything that you use to put hair on top of the head. And then there's some slang words some people will use. But behind me, I have a few different styles of hair. And I would say some of them might be the original topper. But they were wiglets, which I guess sounds like piglets. And so that didn't stick around forever. And it just meant a smaller wig. It could have been a clip-on or not a clip-on, or it could have had comb clips, or it could have been, anything to add hair to the top of the head was some variation of a wig. And so when I say where the word topper came from, we don't know exactly where it came from. I think somebody started using it, and I wonder if somebody gets credit for that. You'll probably Google that here in a second. But I grabbed a few out of my mom's wig shop, and you see there's no hair on the back, so you can tell it's not a full wig. It's so little that this little pin is needed to kind of hold it on, because it'll just kind of fall off. And I'll show the inside of it. And it's just just the top of the head for the most part. Feels like it's probably a synthetic system. I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the tag, but you see, it doesn't fit the whole head. So in the in the hair industry, we would start to refer to wigs as full cap, 3/4 cap, top of the head. Top of the head is probably where topper came from. Top of the head hair. And so it was more like the size of it, and that kind of determined pricing. Now, what they're made out of, whether they're mesh or a little lace material, or how much lace or mesh they have, will determine the price, whether they're human or synthetic. But I thought I'd just kind of talk about size here at first, and attachments. Like they've got this little comb clip that you'll scoop some hair up on your head. Yeah, and then when you bend it shut, it'll grab some hair. And so the clips that come with these smaller wigs, wiglets, pieces, they come with their own challenges. They hold the hair on well, but you have to have enough hair to hold on to. And usually you have so little hair, you're doing this because you want more hair up top. But then you'll start to damage your hair if you're not careful, because it'll cut some hairs. Did you get an answer of who invented the word topper? Anybody taking credit? Because if not, I'm going to do it. Just type in there. Lori invented the word topper.
It's just, it started as toupee.
You see, I would disagree with that, because toupee kind of, which another word I totally hate, toupee. What the heck? What does that word even mean? But that's a man's wig, the top of the head.
It's probably a Frenchy word that, or whatever language it came from.
Origin of the word, right? So toupee kind of meant a hair system, hair replacement, hair piece for a man. Yeah. And so topper, for the most part, some men do ask for toppers, and some women, some men ask for wigs, and some men ask for toppers. So it does get mixed up. But for the most part, a toupee was for a man, a wig was for a woman, and then all the other wig names were mostly for ladies. But that's interesting that you're getting that toupee went to topper. So this, again, see, no hair on the back. So it's just a little bigger than that last one. Covers a little bit more of the head. It's got a lot more see-through airy, but of course it's going to be lower quality when it's made more out of wefts instead of hand-tied hairs coming in, but it'll be cooler on the head. So they have advantages and disadvantages. And then this one,
those are temporary wears, right? Those are not long-term wears.
Right. That's right.
And what does that mean? That means you have to take them off every day and reapply or re-put them on again in the morning?
Yeah. So let me show you this real quick, because this one doesn't have any clips on the inside. If I turn it all the way inside.
Oh, it's a complete slip-on?
Yeah, it just holds on, and some people might use bobby pins or hairpins to hold it on, or maybe they have enough hair to kind of hold it in place. Sometimes around the edges, you might take a little of the wig hair and your hair and tease it a little bit. So there's a lot of techniques to get hair to stay on a head. And then I just grabbed a couple of I got your style here, like when you used to.
I love it.
Yeah. And again, we're still not covering the back of the head, but a little bit more. This would be more of a 3/4. Let's see if there's a pin in it, or, I can just pull it right off. So this is more of a getting close to a full wig. I'm going to turn it all the way inside out so you can see the inside. This is getting closer to a full wig. You see, so this is the front. Really, really inexpensive, low end when it's made like this in the front, because it's not a lace front, but it's made more for comfort. And some people going through chemotherapy or radiation where the skin is real sensitive, you have to worry about what bases might be comfortable or uncomfortable on their scalp. They might scratch or itch or burn or be too heavy. So sometimes these softer materials, even though it would be considered a lower end, less expensive, cheaper, because it was one of the first ones made before hand tied, but sometimes hand tied, the hairs are hand tied in there and you can feel the knots of the hair, and it's got a little bit more of an abrasive feeling on the head. So again, it's not always about the money. It's sometimes about the comfort. Sometimes it's about human versus synthetic. Sometimes it's about, can you style your hair or not? Some people are going through medical issues where they don't have the physical strength or energy to style their hair. So they don't want human hair, because human hair, a little bit of humidity hits it, a little water, it falls. Synthetic hair, it's going to stay styled in the rain. And so you get up in the morning and you could wash it and you could just shake your head and it would be, or shake the wig itself and it'll go right back to styled, because it's a synthetic plastic fiber that'll hold the shape. Now, some people would say, but it doesn't look as real. Some of these do look much better than others, but I grabbed most of the real quick cheap ones on the shelf because they had a bunch of different sizes. This would be more of a 3/4 cap. It's almost a full wig, but it's going to just hug the, what's it going to hug? What's this?
Right underneath the occipital bone, like right around the occipital bone area.
You like it using your big words, huh?
Oh yeah. I like you use me as Wikipedia. My buddy uses me as a calculator, as a human calculator. Yeah, it's great. I'm like a walking chat GPT.
They're all falling off. They're falling off these heads because these heads are kind of slick, you know. But I wanted to grab a longer
So how many?
hair. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How many variations? So you mentioned a 3/4. There's a quarter. There's a 3/4. There's a full piece. How many different variations are there?
It's endless. It's actually endless. But we're gonna talk. Okay, so you talked about. Let me just show a full head real quick, and then that's a good question we'll go into. But let me just show more of a full scalp. And who is this from? I think it's John Renault. Yeah, John Renault.
Yeah, that's Renault.
It's a very high-end, expensive top here. But then let me turn it inside out so you can see better. But can you see inside there? It's much, much bigger. It's got a big dark void in there in the dark like that. But as I open it up, you can see how much bigger all the way around, right? So this is a lace front. And it's even a little tattered right there. There's a little excess lace that gets cut off in the front. So it'll be neatened up across that front. And
so that allows you to customize it around your hairline?
You can cut it. You can reshape it. If somebody had more of a widow's peak, you could cut this whole section out there and leave it more pointy in the front if you wanted. You can keep it round. You can back it up a little bit. You can get rid of it completely.
Because there's hair attached to that excess area.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. And that's what they're talking about with the lace front, because it almost looks like skin.
I was going to say it's
like
all lace here, right? And that's what I wanted to show you. If I turn it over and if you see the part, like right in this area here. Let's see. I've got my finger kind of touching a spot.
Yeah, it looks like scalp.
Watch when I pull my finger away. So when it's on your scalp, it gives the color of your scalp. So it looks like it's growing. Like when I don't have my finger on there, you can kind of see my finger moving inside there. When it's laying on your skin, it'll give a skin color, and it's rooted. So it's a little darker at the root. So it looks really natural, and it just fits much bigger. Now on the back section of it, there's Velcro. So I can pull this Velcro, and it's an elastic, it's a stretchy elastic strap to help pull it a little tighter, to hug the back of my neck a little bit more to make it fit better. So now with this, the cool thing about this is we start off with a more expensive, more desired, more natural looking lace top and front, but this still is the way it's been done forever with wefts. It's a lower end, less expensive. So you start to bump the price up a little bit where it matters, and then keep the price down with a less expensive way of making the back where you don't notice as much. High-end hair, but lower end. I shouldn't say low end because it lasts really well, but some people might get lace throughout, or there's a lot of variations where you can have higher end all the way through. But some people like this, like I can stick my finger all the way through right here, because what I'm trying to show is that it's much more comfortable. A lot more air is going to pass through. And so sometimes lower price or older fashioned ways of doing things bring some comfort in there.
And that having the Velcro straps makes it like a one size fits all, basically.
Yeah. So that's what we're going to start to talk about now. You had said, you talked about sizes. I mean, my goodness, there's sizes, there's lengths, there's human and synthetic. She just lost her hair. Oh, well.
Well, before you get into that, what is the purpose of a topper? Let's create the baseline for everything. What is the purpose of a topper?
More hair.
More hair.
Yeah.
It's always
So,
more hair.
Right. God, there's so many questions, and I know so much about this subject. I sometimes don't know where to start. So that is a good question. I mean, I try to be as general as possible and say more hair, right? But people are losing different amounts of hair, or they're temporary or permanent hair loss also. So some people might come in and get something that attaches more permanently if they know they're not going to have hair for a much longer time, and we would call it hair replacement as opposed to topper or wig or piece or all these things. So the main reason is people are starting to lose their hair, and in most cases, and you might be able to help me out with this here for a minute. This is a question I have to answer in the next few days with a couple of hairdressers that called me, or they text and they asked, we're going to be on air. We're going on a news channel or some interview channel, 2 hairdressers, and they want us to talk about, in this case, it's hair extensions, but why would somebody want or need hair extensions? What should we say? I was like, well, you sell them, don't you? Have people
You're right.
telling you why? And I thought, that's a good little mind lesson for me being in the hair business. First, we don't need hair, do we?
Yes, we do.
Technically, like we're not going to die if we don't have our hair.
Says
But
you.
I know. I have people, most ladies, when the doctor tells them in the office something's going on, no cancer, you're somebody close to you from over there. That was one of the first calls was to me about her hair. And it's like, the doctor just said you might die. And they're thinking, the doctor's saying we got to line up chemotherapy or treatment, or you got to be on this regimen. And the first thing they're thinking is, I gotta cover my head. Am I going to lose my hair? I've got to use a cold cap. I've got to use laser. I got to try to save my hair some kind of way. If I don't, who am I going to talk to? And then I delivered hair to a friend of mine recently in another city, and a joint that was when I almost missed a meeting because her customer is pretty close to passing away, and she's already thinking about what she's going to look like in the coffin. So yes, hair's important. I don't think I can ever understand completely why, but it's more or less important to different people for different reasons, right? And so the first thing I would start to say is most of us look and feel better with hair. That's like a baseline for me. How much better, how much hair is a whole, it's just, there's levels and levels. And so we can get deeper and deeper. Like I get comments on YouTube all the time about when we put hair on somebody, there's so many people love it. And there's always a few that say, he's so vain. He doesn't need it. He looked better without it. And I'm thinking, we might look better without clothes too, you know? Is this vanity? I just have a t-shirt on, but when I wear a collared shirt and a tie or a suit, am I going too far? Am I doing more than is necessary? What is the difference if I wear a nice pair of shoes or an ugly pair of shoes? Why does it matter if I want to put hair on because it makes me look different? Maybe I feel better. The fact is, in the job place, for the longest time, the younger people were getting the jobs. So if I look a little younger, does it help me keep the job? It shouldn't be right, or it shouldn't be so, but it is. So with the world of the internet and video and pictures, since we've had that, we've got better and better looking. And I know people are going to totally disagree right now because a lot of people don't really think Trump's a very good looking man. But overall, our politicians have gotten better and better looking since we can see them. Back in the day when we voted for some painted picture of a man that might make it to our little town and like, vote for this person, they're going to change their look with the painting and make them look more attractive, make them look taller. But we are such a visual society. Hair makes a huge difference.
No, you're right. Because if you think about it, historically speaking, it is the difference. I mean, it all throughout history. It doesn't matter if you're from a tribe in the desert or in the jungle or in some third world country up to first world countries. It is a measure of class. It is a measure of hierarchy in the society, from rags to riches. I mean, there's so many different explanations and there's so many different ways of designating, even in an army, in a military, the amount of medals that you have or the uniform that you wear. It just shows a status of power or of importance. So yes, I know I goof off about, everybody wants hair, needs hair, but yeah, technically speaking, hair is just your body's way of protecting itself. That's simply it. It has become the ultimate accessory in our lives nowadays because we have the ability to take care of ourselves from the elements with clothing and other things, with technology. So I'm agree with you. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is so subjective.
Right. So we don't need hair like we used to need it to survive, but we still love it. And there's still enough people that love the more hair you have, the more they like it. I'm one of those people. I love long, thick hair on a girl. It's very attractive to me. The more hair, the better. The messier, the better. I just like a lot of hair.
How you say, like a mental, psychological impact it has, for people.
Impact. Yeah. And some people love short hair or bald heads. I mean, we all have our different things that we like, but I think more people. And so let me kind of say something I heard one time when they try to decide, like, what is beauty? What is it? Everybody thinks something else. Some people like big, some people like little, some people like short, some like tall, some people like different races, different race than you are because they want something different, or they only want the race they are in. So there's so many ways to go with what is attractive. But years ago, I heard this study one time that one of the things that they studied said was pretty cross, I don't know, all people groups, was youth. That was one of the things that most people found attractive, was the younger a person was, the more attractive. So I guess what they're saying is we all agree that the older we get, the uglier we get. And so in most people's opinion. And so what happens when we get older? Here it is right here. We're both losing our hair as we get a little older, right? And so age takes your hair away. So there's no doubt that hair is going to make people look younger. Just one little fact about hair. And most people want to look younger. So it's one of the many things we do to fight our age, amongst plastic surgeries, Botox. And the thing Botox is, I was doing plural for Botox. I think Botox is plural. So all of these things we do to fight aging, hair replacement, hair extensions are some of those things. So enough justifying it. I think people agree that more hair is better.
Yeah,
it's a fact.
that's
So when
fair.
we go into some of the other questions you had, and you were asking me some questions, the big thing to kind of know is there's pre-made and custom made. And so in the world of us ordering, we're going to call it stock or custom. And so everything behind me is stock. So that's why you're going to have the adjustment tabs to tighten it up, because everybody's head's going to be a little bit different size, and maybe the amount of hair they still have on their head may take up a little more room or less room. So when you get custom, it's going to fit your head. You don't need those adjustment straps. It takes a little longer to come in, though. It might take 6 to 8, 10, 12 weeks to have it come in. We make a cast mold of your head, and we make something fit your head better. It's more expensive, obviously. You choose human or synthetic. You choose the density. You choose the length. You choose the color variations. So some things can be standard, and then we just customize. Like we might say, oh, we like everything about this wig here. We just our customer just has red hair, and nobody's selling a stock red hair system. So we might say, just make this wig just like it is, but I'm going to send a color sample in and make it with this color in human instead of synthetic. So there's a lot of choices to make, but for the most part, you can save a lot of money and time, because the stock system world has come so far. And this goes for men and women as far as putting hair on a person's head. It's come so far that there's so many choices in stock, so many different sizes and shapes, as so much to say that, like, even when we order from John Renault, they have a video that teaches you how to figure out what you should be ordering in size, because there's more than just one head size. Quite commonly, most companies have what they would call a petite size, and that sometimes is children that need a petite size, but it's not even always just kids. As some ladies have and guys have smaller heads, and so petite size is, because most of our heads are pretty close to the same. Mine's larger than average, and there's a big group out there that have smaller than average, but there's an average size head that most wigs fit fine.
So then a stock system is something that is already pre-made. It could be adjusted slightly by the stylist to better blend it into the client wearing it.
Yeah. And so when you were starting to say adjusted, I was thinking two ways. It can be adjusted in a couple of ways. Some of these stock systems are made where let's differentiate two things here. We've got the base before you ever have any hair on it, and then the hair that comes out of it. The base,
hair that comes out
the
of it.
thing that touches your head. So in some cases, the bases can be altered,
even in a stock pre-made system.
Yes, and in some cases where it's not supposed to be altered, a very good stylist has some sewing skills, can cut away sections that shouldn't have been cut away, and then stitch them together. Many people will stitch 2 or 3 different wigs together to get lengths and cuts and color and size changed up to fit better. So some wig shops are pretty crazy on what they can do as far as sewing, and just like a garment, they'll just take and make it fit you, on the spot. But pre-made, we talked about like the size fitting the size of a head. We're mostly talking about full caps, but that base or that cap can be 3/4 cap, because most people keep their hair. So let's talk about how people thin generally. Most people start to thin a little bit in the front here or the top. It's usually this section that goes first. And that's why pieces, toppers, wiglets, toupees, men's hair pieces have all been so popular, because we're just replacing hair on the top of the head. But how do you get it to stay? You got to go a little bigger than the thin or bald area, and either clip, bond, glue, tape, a bunch of different techniques to get the hair to stay in that area. Because just sitting on top, it doesn't stay as well. Whereas a full wig, getting over the curve of the head back there, the head gets bigger, then it gets smaller again, right? So it's almost like putting a glove on. It's like pop over, like you guys have wear like a soft cotton type cap in the snow.
Like a beanie cap or a baseball cap or something.
Right.
Yeah,
once you pass the biggest part of the curve, it kind of stays on because of the shape of the head. Mm-hmm. So when you go to 3/4, it's still barely past that and it stays on. But then when you start going to partial cap, top of the head cap, smaller things on top, that's when we start having to do other methods to make it stay with clips or tape or adhesives to
Or
stay on
bobby,
top,
pins and
or
things like
bobby
that.
pins,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Because there's generally no hair or very little hair.
I got you. And that's the really nice thing about it. So then, okay, so then that's the cap, or that's the base of a stock system. Now the hair part of it, generally speaking, if you're a beginner, is it recommended to try to order a style as close as possible to the end result that you're looking for? It's harder to blend and cut a stock system in general, especially if you're a beginner. You may not be as comfortable, or you may not be as good at styling.
I wouldn't do it at home. I wouldn't do it if you're not a stylist. I wouldn't just. My very first text this morning was, can I get an appointment? I've been cutting on my own hair, and I think I need a hairdresser to do a little better job. And I was like, well, first, how bad is it? Because there's so many tutorials out there that tell you, oh, it's so easy. I would say go to a stylist, not only any stylist, but a stylist that knows how to cut wigs, because
it is different.
Well, it doesn't grow back. So there's that, right?
It doesn't grow back, that's for sure, but it doesn't lay, because I don't think a lot of people realize off that base, the way and the angle that the hair is injected into that base.
Some are better than others.
It's coming, yeah, and it's coming off in such a specific direction. It doesn't follow the general rules of natural fall and gravity.
True. It's true. And then before you even get there, there's synthetic or human. So they can both be altered.
And that really different. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so the thing that most people don't realize, even hairdressers don't realize or understand, is what we all know that we lose a lot of hairs per day, right? We all can kind of quote the numbers. How many hairs does a person shed per day? But no one ever really talks about how many are we growing back each day. Because if I'm losing any number, let's say 50 hairs a day to shedding, I don't care if it's 5. If I'm losing 5 a day, every single day, if I'm never growing them back, I'm going to be bald in a year or 2 or 3, depending on how many hairs I have on my head. So the part that the end of the story that nobody ever talks about is how many hairs are growing back. And and they don't start this long. They start like that, popping out the scalp. So there's always different lengths on a person's head. And that's the kind of stuff you have to start to understand much better when you start to cut hair systems, hair pieces, wigs, whether they're human or synthetic, because that's one of the things that makes it look more natural, is if you can use a razor or thinning shears or point cutting or texturizing tools to put some of those random short hairs in the style, all throughout the style. And so if you go too far, which you have to learn, it looks really bad. And a cotton ball, bushy, just all messed up, looks like a bad shag cut if you go too far. If you don't do it enough, you get a little bit of an unnatural look because it's all flat and smooth and it doesn't have. So the cut is, and that's all before you even start to cut one length or layers or try to blend it into the person's hair. So getting the right color is important. So I say go into a wig shop and try a few on, because many times you can find one that is the cut and color and style you like already. And the manufacturers have done a pretty good job in the higher ends of putting some of those shorter hairs in already. But when you go to cut a lot of hair off, you might not think to do that. That's why people say when they get a new haircut, and it's not so much these days, but people would say, did you like your haircut? I will in a few days. You know, a lot of people don't like their cut right away, but they'll like it in a few days because all the hairs on the head are also growing at different rates. So they end up looking like my fingers, right? If I cut them all off one length like that and they grow, boom, a bunch of different lengths the next day, next few minutes. But every day they get more and more random on the edges. And so better stylists know that and will point cut, texturize, give some uneven ends up there at the end, so it's kind of wispy like it looks when it grows out. But most stylists do a trim and is very, very blunt on the ends, and a person likes it a little bit more.
Eventually it'll get down.
Yeah. So realizing that the hair never grows when I say artificial hair, I just mean not your hair, because it could be human. you put on somebody's head, it's not going to grow. They're not going to say, I'm going to like it in a few days. They might, because they might need to get used to looking at more hair in their head, but the cut's not going to change. So you have to get that to look better now. So getting the right color, the right texture, the right density, the amount of hair you need is something that has to come through experience. And so go to somebody that knows what they're doing in that area. And so then we have.
Well, it's also important to note that with a synthetic, yes, they are improving. The quality is getting better. It is starting to look more natural. They've even got some synthetic fibers nowadays that can take slight low amounts of heats, so you can slightly style it a little bit easier too. But they're still, you got to choose the color correctly. You still can't really color them. You can't really change what they are. You really, your only option is really in the blending and the semi styling of it.
Here's a short that's going to be pulled out of this. Maybe after I answer it, but I'm going to test you first.
Fair enough.
What is it about synthetic hair that makes it look and feel different than synthetic? Do you have any of those little details?
Wait, ask your question one more time.
What about synthetic is it that makes it different from human? Like, why do we look at it, feel it, whatever, and say, oh, that's not real hair? What is it about synthetic?
Okay. I got you.
What characteristics about synthetic hair make it, in the old days, stand out? And then I'll talk about some of the improvements they've done.
So far as I understand it, the characteristics that make it different is it is a perfect cylinder, or the shaft of the synthetic when it's made is perfectly smooth because it's machined or because it's crafted. So they're like, human hair has scales, or like roof shingles, if you will.
Yep.
It's layer over layer over layer over layer. So when you run your finger through it, you can kind of feel texture, if you will, in different variations. It doesn't all feel perfectly smooth and even. Whereas in a synthetic hair shaft, because it's so made perfectly, and then they just, they make a full length of it and then they cut it down to how short or how long it's going to be. It feels nice and smooth through the entire shaft. And then at the end, because they've chopped it to whatever length it's supposed to be, it's kind of blunted off at the end. Right. Unless they purposefully try to razor it to give it that tapered, they refer to it as tapered ends. That's the best way I understand it. So it reflects light a lot more than natural hair does, because the scales kind of absorb and trap light because they're different layers. So that sheen or that shine that you see kind of is like also another kind of tell that it's fake.
That's good. Yep, that's all good. So flat and smooth was the old-fashioned Barbie hair look. Those little Barbie dolls still have the very first original glow. I mean, you see the light shine off of it. And so higher end synthetics, they're starting to rough up the surface and make it look a lot less glossy. They used to sell wig powder to try to dull the surface.
Oh yeah, okay.
We're putting glosses and shines and silicone and sheens on human hair, trying to shine up that dull look, and on wigs we're trying to dull it to make it look more human with wig powders. But higher end synthetics are rougher. One thing where I thought you were going originally is for the most part synthetic was perfectly round too, and human hair is rarely round. It's
oval, like,
oval to sometimes flat. Curlier hair is flatter oval, and so even that, you would think it wouldn't matter, and that's why we look at it and we think, oh, it kind of resembles hair. But those are just a couple of characteristics. But dark hair, overall, synthetic fibers are larger per fiber than human hair also, and that was the biggest thing that was visually noticeable. Sure, it shined a little, but you could see each strand, so it almost looked like straw. It was like, that is a big straw, like a horse's tail or horsehair in the early days when they tried to make wigs out of all kinds of things out there, and horsehair and tails being part of it. Their hair, each hair is so freaking big.
It is.
It's got to be strong. There's a lot of environmental pressure on the hair of a horse. That tail's whipping around trying to get flies off that thing all day long. And synthetic fibers have always been a little bigger than human hair. So they've shrunk the size a little bit, roughened the surface. Like you said, the end getting cut off. That's why I'm saying if you can get one your length is better, because the ends have been tattered. But razor cutting, if you're any good with a razor, is a better haircut because it leaves all the ends a little more uneven, but it also whittles that end down a little bit so it's not so blunt cut on the ends. So that's a bunch of things. But the one I was going to say first that I kind of pulled away from is that different colored hair has different sizes in general also.
Sure.
Darker hair tends to be larger and lighter hair tends to be smaller. And so in a really high-end synthetic lineup, the darker hairs will be a little larger than the blondes. The other thing is that human hair generally is not one solid color. It fades easily. And so synthetic hair, I mean, some of the better looking ones have multiple colors. You can see the dark roots, and so they'll purposely put the different colors in there to make it look more dimensional and more like real hair. Also,
I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand is the physical color of your hair determines it adds weight and density to that hair as well too. And just simply put, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is dark, 10 is light, or 1 is black and 10 is blonde. The darker you are, the more pigment you have in your hair, and that's what gives you fullness and density. The lighter you go, the less pigment, therefore equally the less density you have in that shaft.
That's why you need extensions.
That's why you need hair extensions, but this is also why, if you think about it, stereotypes, when used correctly, actually help us better understand things. Okay. When you hear stereotypes about blondes, oh, it's like hay, it's like straw. There's a lot of negative connotations, stereotypically speaking, with the blonde hair. But the reason is because of that. The blonde hair, yes, visually, beauty level wise, looks good and is desirable, but physically speaking, technically speaking, requires so much more effort to maintain the proper condition of said hair,
which
comparing to darker.
Which made me remember one other thing that really is a big difference between human and synthetic is human hair is porous and absorbs water and moisture and changes with the environment. Synthetic hair is not porous, good or bad. It doesn't change with the environment, so that can be a good thing. But then when it doesn't change, when everybody else is getting rained on and your hair is not changing, then people are like, why?
You got this special treatment that repels moisture. You got Rain-X like you do on the car windshield.
Right. So, there's always a give and a take or a plus and a minus. And sometimes that is a huge advantage to have synthetic hair. You're not going to get messed up in the rain. It's easy to clean and dry, and then the style comes right back. So I find myself selling synthetic wigs more often than human. People think they want human because they think it sounds better and they think it's going to look better. Okay. But synthetic has come so far now that I try to tell people, like, first of all, what's the reason? A lot of times it's a medical issue. And I'm like, last thing you want to be thinking about is having to style your hair, especially if you get caught in a little humidity down south where we have such humidity. Your hair is going to be messed up by lunchtime. So synthetic hair, so easy less expensive, first of all, look so good these days, so easy to care for, so easy to clean, so easy to maintain, and so easy just to replace if you need. More than happy to make a custom made mole and sell somebody what they want. But for the most part, you can get a really good synthetic hair wig for anywhere from $200 to $600 and be a full head cap, depending on quality and whether it's lace or not and all that kind of stuff. So $400, $500, $600 is pretty common for a very good wig. But then when you move into human, it's almost always going to be $2,000 to $4,000 for just your shorter, medium lengths. And then when you start to go longer, it's a commodity. It's something that does run out. Synthetic hair, they just keep making it. So it can be more easily mass produced, the exact same color, same length, same style. Find something you like, you can replace it a lot easier. You go with human, your next human wig may not be exactly like your last one because it's not fabricated. It's coming from real people. So it's going to be a little different.
Where does a beginner even start when they start getting into the realm of human hair choices,
So
choosing the right kind of system?
are we talking about a hairdresser? Because if you're a hairdresser and you want to learn how to get into all of this, in the description below this video, we have online classes to learn a lot about how to get into the hair business and make more money as a hairdresser. Where does one go if they're a client, huh? I think a good place to start is a local wig shop. I mean, you can order quite a bit of stuff online and send back these days. So maybe you want to order a few. I would never just order one thing, but I would usually start at a wig shop, trying some things on locally, because you're going to be surprised at how good they look these days. Really surprised. I have so many people that come in for a consultation for hair replacement because they just know a wig is not for them, and vice versa. And I'll say, they're like, that's a little expensive. Have you tried a wig? I could never wear a wig. They look so bad. No, your mama's wig looked really bad, or your grandma's wig looked really bad. Come see. Just come. What have you got to lose? We're gonna put a little sanitary stocking cap on your head, and then we're gonna try a wig on. And they're like, oh my God! And it's best if they come with a friend. Go with a friend.
Yeah, sure.
You expect the wig lady to lie and say, oh, you look good because I want your money. But that's not what they're doing. You just think that. But when you go with a friend, the friends are like, Judy, that looks so good. And they're like, you think so? You really think so? Get a little mirror and do it where you can see the back of your head. It's crazy how natural they look these days. It's crazy. And I don't have all the colors and styles over here, but for the most part, let's try one on. You're going to start by trying to get that front. You're going to start by trying to get that front just right, and then pulling the rest down here. And I want to kind of show that lace front, and this is not brushed or combed, and I don't have a brush around me. But
you're ready to do your concert now. You're like a rocker.
I don't have glasses on, so I can't even see if I got it in the right place. Is it behind my head?
It's pretty close.
Yeah. So look, looks like it's growing right out of my head because it's got that. Oh my God!
That lace front that you're talking about
going up my nose, but it's crazy how that lace, when it lays on the scalp, it looks so real. And then, of course, I don't have this exactly right. And I have a large head. I would need one for a larger size head, but you get this where it's supposed to be. And there's generally these wire stays inside here that you can bend to make it hug your temple just a little bit. But you see, my head's too big for this wig. But I would just have to wear it down. And then I don't know what it looks like in the back, but I thought I might turn around for you.
No, it's pretty wild, man. I mean, just for throwing it on and it's not the right size.
Right. Definitely not the right size. And so when you put something like that on somebody and they're like, that's synthetic hair. That's synthetic hair. It doesn't have, I got lights on in the studio, so everything's shining. Look at next to my hair. Even my hair's shining more than it usually does. But that's synthetic hair.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell by just looking at it quickly. I was like, is that human or synthetic? So I'm like reading the tag to see.
But that's cool. So then getting into a wig shop, and some stylists locally in the area make deals or have relationships with local wig shops where if as a client you want to take it one step further, you can actually get a referral or a recommendation, and they can say, go get a consultation at this salon with this stylist, so and so. So doing a little bit of homework, doing a little bit of research, getting your due diligence in, it's worth it, because it really is that relationship. You're going to have to come back depending on what kind of system you get, and depending on what direction you decide to go with. You may come back as often as 4 to 6 weeks. You may come back as lengthy as every 8 to 12 weeks, or anything in between all of that too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Some people buy a wig and we don't see them for a year. They come once a year and buy a new wig. Some people like to have 2 or 3 as a backup, because they want to have one being cleaned or cleaning or soaking and then drying on the counter while they're wearing the other one, and wear one every other day. Some people have us attach them with more permanent means, and so they come in every 4 to 6 weeks to have it removed and reattached with adhesives, more lace and skin type wigs and hair pieces, especially for men. We probably have as many men as we have women that attach permanently, that come in about once a month and have it removed and replaced, and they don't have to worry about taking it off or putting it back on at night. They wear their hair 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day. So then let me see if I can recap this, if I can remember all of this. So we unpacked a lot of
A
information.
lot. And there's so much more. I'm thinking I need to stop there because we're just going to overwhelm people. But
No.
that's kind
So
of the
then
start of it all.
So correct me if I'm wrong. My takeaway from today is knowledge and education is key. So you need to do some research. Couple of decisions needs to be made. Do you want a stock system, or do you want a custom system? Do you want it with pre-made stock cap, or do you want a hybrid or a combination with some lace built into that cap? The hair coming off, do you want it synthetic or do you want it human? And then your options of the length, the color, the style. Do you want to do it where you're doing it yourself, or do you want to work and build a relationship with a stylist where you're getting help putting it done? The longevity of that wear. Do you want to be doing it yourself and attaching it yourself, or do you want the option to have it a little bit more permanent, well, semi-permanently, where you can sleep in it and you can, live in it? Did I miss anything?
You didn't miss anything that I went over today, but there's still.
They were all. This is a beginner, right? There is so much more nuances and customization and things to think about and what if scenarios. But as a beginner, that there's a lot of things going on. And
this is not a wig. That's his real hair.
That is real hair, huh? That's a custom if there ever was one. But as a beginner, you got to start somewhere, and it could get overwhelming really quick. But that's the whole purpose of today, is to break it down enough where baby steps, and if you think about it in the ways that we've been talking about it today, it's not as overwhelming as one may think it to be.
No,
it really is a good start. It's actually motivating when you're a beginner and you start getting into this realm and you start to realize how much more there is above and beyond what you thought about. Instead of it thinking like, oh my God, you're drowning in this. No. It's so cool how many different directions you can take this, and you can specialize and nuance yourself into as well.
That's why I say walk into a wig shop, because you would not believe how many people buy the first wig we try on them.
Okay.
The first one. Because the person in the wig shop has experience. They look at you and they got an idea of what you want to look like. They can see where you've been. They can see everything used to be here, and now it's just maybe here and nothing here. And they got an idea of your color immediately about what's here, or what you were wearing when you came in, and the kind of clothes you wear. And sometimes they have a display, and you might pick one like, I like that. And then they pick a more appropriate color or length, usually with their experience. They try it on, and that's it. A lot of times the person won't take it off. This is it. It's not like trying on shoes where you try a bunch on and you finally find one, or clothes. It's crazy how often people will just wear the first one, buy the first one they try on, but because they're blown away at how comfortable it feels, how good it looks. And they're like, well, this is it. I can't believe I found it so easy.
It's an art form, and your mind's eye automatically
Yeah.
sees what it wants, you know,
Right.
what you
But if
subconsciously
you
want.
do try on 10 or 20 of them, have fun.
Have fun with it too. Why not? You know, you could be Peggy Bundy on Monday. You could be, you know, from you could be the Sons of Anarchy, Katie Seagal, you know, on Tuesday.
I forgot about that series. I got to
Yeah,
run,
right?
guys. I've got to go
All
do a
right.
consultation for hair extensions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Give us a comments. Let us know what you think. If you have any other questions, if you need any
Like,
other help with the directions.
subscribe, please. It'll help us out on the channel. Bye,
Catch you
guys.
next week.